Hey, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, good evening, good morning, afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is. Greetings.
We're missing someone, unfortunately. Let's see what's going on. So Nella's having camera problems. It looks like. Can you hear us, Nella?
Yes, I can, Roger, and I'm working on it. I think I'll need a couple of minutes, and I'll be there with you.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to remove you from this so you can do your stuff, or just leave it as it is?
Yes, I think it's better to remove me. I'm trying to connect from a different computer.
Okay. The power of being able to remove people.
I know.
Yeah, no,
Don't let it go to your head, Doc.
Because it says kick. The way it says it is kick from studio, which is even better, isn't it? So, so right. So welcome everyone. We're back to that thing about not doing this very often and forgetting how to do it. For me,
yeah, this is our third time lucky on this show, isn't it? With this actual episode, so
yeah,
I'm really glad we made it, and thank you for patience, everyone, and especially to you, Carolyn.
The hippo. See, animal lovers are in already. So welcome everybody. We've just a couple of kind of housekeeping things, usual stuff. If I can remember how to do it, for the best interaction with the chat, it's best on my YouTube channel. You can tune in on the 2 Facebook pages that we've got going, and we will see your comment, but you won't be able to interact with everybody else. So this is the best place to be in that sense. And then obviously just chat away and ask questions as we go. We don't do super chats and all that malarkey, so there's no kind of cost incurred. I don't even know if somebody sent a super chat. I don't know what to do with it because I don't know how to receive one. So that's good. Yeah. Right. Any comments before we get going?
Should we just say hello to people?
Yeah, go on then, be a devil.
Oh, don't mind if I do. So we've got a spiritual vegan. Jennifer, hello. A vegan review. I believe that is that's Alan.
Me. That's me.
Oh, is that you? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought that was Alan. Oh, you're very sneaky coming up twice on here, Doc.
It comes up automatically. I post as me, but the vegan review posts automatically as well. That's why it's always the same.
Got you. All right, I thought that was because the palm tree thing. We have Jeremy is here. Jeremy the 8th. Greetings, Jeremy. Nice to see you. Terry. Hello, Terry. Lovely to see you as well. And Philip from New York. Of course, I have to say that. On his lunch break, no doubt. Kate, how lovely to have you here as well. And the gorgeous Deb Thompson. Our regulars are here, which is lovely. Lovely to see you all. And if you're here and you haven't said hello, do say hello.
Indeed.
So Deb, Nella's computer, no, she's had it fixed, kind of. She'll be here. I think she's going into another one.
An hour ago. It's one of those things where it's so frustrating that everything was fine an hour ago and now it's gone missing again. So
Jeremy says he's been saving up his money to super chat.
Oh right, yeah. Oh good. Well, divert it to any sanctuary that you might know.
Yeah, I can't think of a sanctuary that Jeremy might know, really.
Oh, no. There's bound to be one. So obviously we gave you a preview of what the first thing of, because we're going to start with a bit of a news item, really. So this is from 3 days ago. If I remember how to do it. There we go. Okay. So baby hippo goes viral and paying the price. I found this quite interesting reading it. I mean, there she is, and Mu Deng, her name. And of course, you can just imagine the fuss that would create and the media interest and everything else. You know, to be honest, as soon as I see anything like this, I think about what the knock-on effect is going to be, because if you look at the comments in these kind of articles, people are saying, oh, I want one, you know, buy me one, I need one, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, I mean, what did we say? We said Harry Potter with the owl And then there was Men in Black with the little dogs. Obviously, 101 Dalmatians a couple of times, the Disney one and the new one. And then you said one as well.
Babe. I think there was a massive surge in people wanting to go out so-called micro pigs, which I think proved to be like, actually, no, they're just small pigs who are going to grow up into like huge pigs. And yeah, it's just an absolute nightmare, wasn't it?
Yeah. All this article seems to be about cashing in. And so the name, it translates to bouncy pig. And the bit I really liked, because they're saying that she's in a little bit of danger because of the behavior of what the people are doing, right? But this is what they're talking about now. I mean, I don't know if it was just me, but that didn't seem to be that bad, really, in terms of what could be going on. I mean, apparently they've been splashing a bit of water on her to wake her up, and also throwing shellfish. Now, I don't know whether hippos, in fact, hippos are herbivores, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, so that's weird. And then the best line of the entire article, I think this is a no shit Sherlock kind of line, I think. The best time to visit Mudeng is when she is awake. The director, I think, of the zoo. So I'd have never thought of that myself. So.
I think what's interesting about this for me as well, and it'd be good to get your perspectives and from the people in the chat as well, is we spend a lot of time focusing in the movement on animal lovers, on how, why love one and eat the other, and are you an animal lover and all that stuff. There's a lot of campaigns built around that, and I wonder, is this a sign? Is this a sign here, right here? This is the manifestation of how much harm focusing on being of loving our fellow animals without respect. Actually, this is the harm that can be done, because all these people who are going to go and visit her to ogle her in the zoo are going to say, oh, I love her, I'm an animal lover and all of this, and I just love her and I want her. But it's a very possessive, controlling, dominating love. If it even is love, it's almost a fetishization, isn't it, rather than respect. Like, if we respected her, we'd give her space. She probably wouldn't even be there in the first place, of course, but even if she was someone who'd been rehomed for her own benefit, then we'd respect her space, her time to sleep, not having crowds around her and all of that stuff. So, and it just makes me wonder on that movement point, really, should we definitely move away? I mean, obviously, I think on here, most of us agree we ought to move away from the focus on love and animal lovers. But does this really, show how actually harmful it is to focus on that instead of respect?
Yeah.
Carolyn? Yeah. Well, I was going to highlight the same thing that Roger has just highlighted on the screen. Like, there were these quotes from users on Twitter who were basically saying things like, I'm obsessed with Mudeng. I've been thinking about this queen all day long. I don't know anything else going on in the world right now except for Mudeng. And it's like, her individuality and feelings are not being taken into consideration. It's like a form of objectification. Just, they like her because she's cute. Yeah.
And presumably because she's small and potentially controllable in a pet-like way, right? And so I think that's what people are thinking, because isn't that always a problem in the United States, that the exotic pet trade is really big and really problematic, because people go and buy baby alligators and crocodiles and even leopards, and of course, and also primates. And what happens, of course, is they all grow up and become adults, and then they don't behave like little baby animals anymore. There's a kind of pattern to it, and it's all down to the fact that this, like you say, the animal loving thing is not a great thing, really, when you think about it. I mean, Andy Atkinson was making the point about, it's like you can guarantee that everybody who goes to zoos and everybody goes to aquariums, they're all animal lovers.
Mm.
You know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that cutifying as well, like, you know, Carolyn mentioned there, you know, so and actually Deb's mentioned it in the chat as well. It is because other animals that are cute just seem to attract so much attention, and again, I think as animal rights advocates, and when we're kind of thinking of our relationships and how we speak about fellow animals, is to maybe avoid going down that road and like really highlighting the cuteness of fellow animals, because I think it just plays into all of this. It plays into this objectification, the love thing, the possessive dominance thing as well. And the line that I found really telling in there was that that they say, I can't remember who says it, but in the article someone is quoted as saying her cute appearance is soothing. And it's almost like something, it's total objectification. We want to look at you because it soothes us, but I doubt that there's very little about this situation that's soothing for her at all. Hordes of humans ogling her at all times of day, shouting, throwing things to her, you know. Yeah, so
I have to confess, I didn't see that line at all.
I think it's towards the end.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and the zoo director is also quoted as having, you know, criticized some of the visitors who were, you know, throwing things at Mudang, and he or she said, "These behaviors are not only cruel but also dangerous. We must protect these animals and ensure they have a safe and comfortable environment." And you're thinking, well, if that was the case, then why is it that the zoo is purchasing or breeding non-human animals into existence and then making money off of displaying them to the public?
Yeah, there's your line, Wendy. It was the last line of the article.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cute appearance is soothing.
And there's this cashing in bit here, right? And so this is a blush, apparently, and in kind of sterling, it's £36. Dollars, it's almost $50. What's THB? Sure, I should know that.
THB, where are we? So we'll set you back.
Back THB. That must
It must be.
Oh, it's obviously currency. Sorry, Carolyn, go ahead.
Well, it must be in Thailand, right? Because the story is from Thailand.
I'm just looking up actually what that stands for. But yeah, I'm guessing it's the currency.
Yeah, so it actually says here there's been a cashing in going on.
Thai baht. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but Thai baht, BAHT is the B.
Is a currency. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so every day when you present the animal rights show, don't you?
And I've learned a new word from Deb. Thank you, Deb. The neotonization. I haven't actually heard that word or used that word before. So thank you, Deb. Have I pronounced that correctly? Neotonization. And I'm guessing that is a kind of is that infantilizing-ish or something? Or is it?
I think that comes from semiotics, I think. You know, but I'm probably wrong, but been a long time since I was an academic. I wasn't a very good one in the first place, but never mind.
I don't believe that for a second.
The students liked me, but I don't think the institutions did. Never mind.
That's because you're a rebel. Institutions don't like rebels, do they?
Yeah, Jennifer. So they've kind of created makeup on the basis, ironically, probably tested on other animals as well. So
it certainly will be.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, in some senses, you can't make human attitudes up really because they're so, you know. Right. Hang on. Give me a second. I think Nella's.
Is Nella back? This was Nella's article, by the way. So it's such a shame.
Hey, brilliant.
Hello.
Welcome.
Finally.
Oh.
For that.
Oh, well done, Nella.
Technical problem is my middle name lately. So.
No, Nella, we've just been discussing your hippo article.
The picnic hippo, yes.
Yeah, we've just kind of gone through quite a bit of it by now, because obviously I know, and I just said this is your article. Shame.
Did we get to discuss the impact of the journalist's comment post on the issue?
Your sound is not. I can't hear you very well, Nella. Can everyone else hear Nella? Okay.
Try and boost your sound just a touch, Nella, or get a bit closer.
What about now?
That's better.
Yeah, that's better.
That's okay. I was talking about Aaron Yakowski. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The animal photojournalist and filmmaker who made the post on Instagram. He did a post about the pygmy hippo and the way everyone is treating her, while he has documented in the same zoo or animal prison. He has documented actual abuse in the sense of hitting and physically harming animals, and the difference between the way they treat someone who may mean more money for them and some other individuals that don't.
Yeah.
So there is actual footage of the way they are treating individuals in this particular prison.
There was one a video of them abusing a baby elephant, I think, wasn't they, Nella? And which seems quite strange, because you would think actually a baby elephant would also be a very popular, attraction in an animal prison for people. It seems
it was a little bit like what happens in circuses, where they use kind of disguise hooks and stuff to move them around. So it is a control measure. It was. So
yeah. And who knows what's really going on with the baby hippo anyway in the background? We just don't know, and especially if she does get bigger.
Because I imagine that they are abusing and harming everyone when they're not visitors looking at them.
Yeah, absolutely. So does anyone else have anything to say on that one? Because I know we're going to be moving on to our topic, which is speciesism in the media. So funnily enough, we're introducing the news item at the beginning of all of our shows now, but that was just coincidence that we've started with an article, but we're going to move on to more articles. But does anyone, and Nelly, you didn't have a chance to say a great deal there, but are you happy with everything there? Do you want to say more?
Oh yes, no. I'm happy you covered the topic, since it has gone viral. And it's this absurdity of people loving and caring about an individual who is actually a prisoner, but no one thinks about that. I'm sure you covered all aspects of it, so we can go on to the next one.
If these are animal lovers, what will animal harmers be doing? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? So
yeah.
Right, okay, so we're moving on now. It's the Ukraine one now, isn't it, I think? Or are we going for Nibert now?
Nibert, I think. Carolyn? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Right, okie dokie. Let me get my silly equipment in order. Add to stage. There we go. Hey, look at that. The technology is working so far, folks.
Yay,
Right.
Well done.
So yeah, recently I was reading the book Critical Animal and Media Studies, Communication for Non-Human Animal Advocacy, which is an anthology. And so I found this quote from David Nybert's chapter in the book. Yeah, so I'll just read it out. He said, speciesist ideology and oppression, like other exploitive social arrangements, are so pervasive and so pervasively promoted and normalized in both advertising and the content of the media that it takes considerable effort just to become aware of it, much less to understand the institutional arrangements that compel it. And yeah, I wanted to say one way that speciesism shows up in the media I mean, obviously there are many ways, but one way is in how the media fails to report on non-human animal issues. The media tends to focus on human-centric news stories, and even when a particular event impacted non-human animals in some way, like a war or a natural disaster, the focus tends to be almost exclusively on how that event affected humans. And so I think when non-human animals are hardly even being discussed, that can make it even harder to become aware of speciesism.
Yeah, I agree with that. And of course, the classic case is when they say in the media no one was hurt, and yet there was 35,000 chickens killed, or something like that. In fact, Sentient Rights Ireland shared the news yesterday that a lorry taking so-called spent hens to a slaughterhouse caught on fire, and so there's a lot of people trying to get some individuals out before they were burnt to death and everything. I didn't see the article, but it wouldn't surprise me if somewhere in there it said no one was hurt, because that's a really kind of common thing, isn't it?
Mm.
And this is not even the worst case scenario. Seeing them as non-victims, while they're actually victims, they are actually probably dead. But in some cases, like in wildfires or floods or other natural disasters, not only they are not mentioned as victims, but they are mentioned, some of them, as loss of livestock, loss of capital, loss of money, loss of
Yeah, isn't it dreadful? The farmer lost X amount of dollars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That comes up in I'm sorry. That just I was going to say that comes up in one of the articles that I brought in on the badges.
What, this from Jeremy?
No. What Nella was just saying about the livestock.
All right. Okay. So, yeah, are you familiar with the FAR research, the passive active disassociation?
I haven't read this yet. This has just come through today, I think, or in the last couple of days.
Oh,
so I haven't.
Jeremy is testing us. Jeremy is testing us.
Yes. Yeah. Jeremy, you little rascal.
You cheeky monkey. You cheeky ape. And then, Deb was saying about wildfires. Well, obviously, Nella, you don't have to be told about that at all. We're hoping to do a special. I think we're still hoping to do a special, aren't we? Where you a full account of the experience of Greece and the search and rescue and the kind of trauma and the highs and the lows and everything. I think we're still planning on doing that.
Yes,
so.
Yes, we need to do that, definitely.
Sound like you'd forgotten there, Wendy.
Well, I'd kind of, Not that I'd forgotten about it, but just forgotten that, we were meant to be doing it. If that makes sense. The days roll into one, don't they? The weeks go by before you know it. It's Christmas.
Yeah, this one, I won't describe it in any detail because it's absolutely horrendous. But this reminds me of the Animals film from 1981, where they had something which was called Noah's Ark, and they tethered hundreds of our fellow animals onto a boat close to a nuclear detonation, to see what would happen. So yeah, that was pretty horrible.
Yeah, horrendous.
Right, where do we go next, folks?
So we could any of the articles. Does anyone have a strong? Carolyn, would you like to start one of yours?
Sure. How about the penguin article?
The penguin, right? Give us a second. I've got to figure out how to do it because I've got to collapse some of it and then get it back. So remove that one. Right. Penguin.
Yeah, I do recommend that book, Critical Animal and Media Studies. I mean, I didn't get a chance to read all the articles in it yet, but it's an anthology. So there were chapters by David Nybert, Joan Denayer, Matthew Cole. So there were a lot of really good ones.
Sounds good. So much reading, so many books behind me there that I've started and just not finished. Nelly, you relate to that one, right?
Yeah, the pile is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one, isn't it? Yeah. So let me see if I can make it a bit bigger. Oh, it's on 150 already. Okay. Right. So it's from the Grognard.
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically a story about a penguin who was being exhibited in Japan, basically for human entertainment. And the penguin managed to escape and swam 30 miles in open sea to get away. And 2 weeks later, the penguin was discovered. Basically, according to this article, the penguin was healthy and happy when he was discovered, and he was taken back by those who were exploiting him. And so, you know, as a vegan animal rights activist, when I saw this article, I thought it's really tragic and terrible that this individual, after having, you know, escaped, basically was recaptured and brought back to the imprisonment and exploitation. And I think it's telling that this article is called Miracle Penguin, found 2 weeks after escaping captivity in Japan. And the story presents it as a really good thing, as a miracle that the penguin was found in good health. Whereas from a vegan animal rights perspective, I think we would see that in a very different light. We would see it as a tragedy, really, that the penguin was discovered and brought back.
Look how loaded that phrase is.
Mm-hmm.
Escaping captivity.
Well, it's interesting because some of the language in this article does seem to imply that what happened, that the penguin's captivity was an injustice. I mean, in the first sentence, the penguin is described as a fugitive, and yet at the same time, it is seen as a positive thing that the penguin was recaptured. So it's kind of mixed in that way.
I found that because I was a bit confused by this article at first because I was thinking, is someone else, is the penguin now with someone else who's more of a sanctuary for her and she's escaped this captivity? But actually, no, it's the same people. And I was totally confused by that language, the shift of tone of that, the shift of narrative. Yeah.
So what's going on then?
Yeah, that is bizarre, isn't it?
Well, is it almost making light of the situation? You know, is it almost calling her a fugitive in a lighthearted way, without necessarily thinking through the full implications of what that word means?
Yeah, almost like making it a light-hearted story. Oh, this fugitive penguin, she got away, but she's back with her, keep her all safe and sound again now, kind of.
Yeah, do you know what it could be? You know, Richard Ryder used this phrase, human superintendence, and this argument that our fellow animals need it in order to be safer. You know, it kind of goes to this idea about infantilization, that they can't really look after themselves. They're gonna be killed by predation fairly early, whereas that's not necessarily the case. And there's just this construction, an entire kind of social construction of other animals being rather helpless without our help. So I think it could be something to do with that.
I wonder what would. Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, you go.
I just want to say that it seems like the media is oblivious of animal resistance and even of non-human animals' agency. They seem not in their way of thinking, in the media's way of thinking. I mean, it seems to be totally at the mercy of humans who are looking for for doing the best for them. They don't seem to exist outside the human activity and existence on their own, independently of humans.
Yeah.
Well, those two last bits are interesting, aren't they?
Yeah,
just
it sounds like she was able to survive on her own, which makes it even more sad that she was recaptured.
But it does raise the question as well that once our fellow animals have been living in a captive situation, obviously no fault of their own, for whatever reason that might be, are they then able to, if then they are no longer in that, if they do escape or they're released or whatever, are they able to actually take care of themselves because they haven't, especially if they're maybe in captivity from being born, are they able to go out and do what they normally would because maybe they haven't got the social structures that they would have, the family around them that they would have, or the community or whatever? So I guess it does beg that question a little bit as well.
Yeah, but there's two things, isn't there? I mean, like there's one, managed to find some food, kind of surprise, surprise. And then this thing about, kind of having the wherewithal to stop now and again for a break on a journey somewhere, as though this is, what are they saying? This, but it's still unbelievable. I mean, what's unbelievable? That they showed a bit of agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think humans are always really surprised, aren't they, and shocked and in awe when there are reports of fellow animals showing agency. It's almost like, oh wow, can you believe they can do that? And and I think even within the movement that happens as well. I hear a lot of vegans saying things like that, and I'm sure I have said things and probably still do find awe in these things. And then sometimes I really catch myself and think, well, of course they can. Of course they can do that, and it's
like their job is to be cute, not resourceful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on, folks, this Philip is asking about the book that you were referencing, saying that $55 is.
Yeah. So one thing that people can do is they can look at the list of chapters for the book, and they can, if there's a specific chapter they want to read, they can send an email to the academic who wrote that particular chapter and just ask them for the article, because a lot of academics are very, especially within the critical animal studies tradition, a lot of academics are very happy to share their work for free in PDF format.
Yeah, very true.
Good tip.
Yeah, I mean, like in my recent interview with Matthew Cole, he said in the interview, write to him and he'll send his work to people for free.
Okay.
Great.
Did you say to him, get on with the Donald Watson archive, we're waiting?
He did give a bit of an update on that. I'm going to publish the interview soon.
All right. Very good. You're keeping us waiting, I see. Okay. Right, remove. And so are we going to, which one do you want to go for next, Wendy?
I don't mind. I actually don't mind. Should we do one of yours, Doc?
There's only one of mine. Well, that's the problem. Yeah, so this one. Yeah, okay. Now, the reason that I thought this was unusual, I think I mentioned it when I sent it to everyone, was the language is really unusually good, and in a few ways. Let me just get it a bit bigger. See I don't know whether it actually happens nowadays, but if you look at the headline, and then if you look at the sub headline, which is this one, and then you look at the text, they would have been written, used to be anyway, by 3 separate people. But they're all pretty okay in terms of language, so there's a total absence of it and all the usual stuff that you might expect main text. But there's also that in the subheading, which is liable to have been created by somebody else, right? And also the title as well, which is liable to be created by a third person. So that was pretty good. So I mean, they were all in line with the really good language on this one. And of course, it is feeding rather into, you see this a lot in the movement, I'm sure, this thing about people love these videos of our fellow animals touching grass for the very first time thing, don't they? They love those because it's kind of like pulls on the heartstrings, I suppose, and all this kind of stuff. And so this is what this essentially is, that she was kept in a concrete enclosure in Ukraine and now in a sanctuary in Kent, where able to actually put her feet on grass for the very first time. Again, bought as a status symbol and kept. So again, this thing about animal lovers and this kind of hoarding and this kind of collecting of our fellow animals as though they're toys, you know, they're animate ornaments. Oh, have we lost?
Oh, is Nella gone again?
Yeah.
Oh, Nels.
She'll be kicking the computer around the room by now.
No, bless her.
And then of course you got this other thing, and Nella could have spoken to that, because we with Nella's search and rescue, one of the things they had to keep doing is going to farmyards and houses or homesteads and all this kind of stuff, because the humans would have fled, leaving our fellow animals behind. You know, so you know there is a fire kind of coming across the fields, and the humans go and they just leave. And sometimes, you know, for example, dogs just left chained up, not even given a chance of Nella's back, so she could develop this point. Very good. Hi, Nella.
Hello again. I can't believe it.
I'm going today. We were talking about this particular lioness who was bought as a status symbol, but we also were talking about the fact that the owners, you know, she was abandoned, right? And of course, I was saying that you had lots of experience of that, didn't you, during the search and rescue in Greece?
Oh yes, not with lions, of course, but with mainly with dogs. You could find dogs used to guard houses and businesses, like chained in a backyard, for example, or if not chained, behind our iron gates, and they would be in a dangerous area in the sense that the fire was approaching, or it would go that way, and people left them there. They don't even, you know, in some cases they don't even take the chains or the whatever they were tied with off, and give them a chance to save themselves.
That's almost unbelievable, that, isn't it? That they don't.
Yeah, that's shocking.
But it happens every year, and to a great extent, and there are even spots, television spots during the summer, that you know, the kind that gives you advice on how to react if there is a fire near you, and they always say at the end, take your animal companions with you. Don't leave them behind. Even the Red Cross had a spot about that this summer. So this is not just exceptions. This is a crime that happens very often.
Well, going back to the article, Jeremy picked out this shell-shocked, which is interesting, really, a shell-shocked lioness. So that again points to the fact that our fellow animals actually can be the victims of war, which is pretty good in that sense, I suppose. So I suppose that language is fairly kind of useful to describe, you know, a non-human as shell-shocked, because it's usually in a phrase that is left exclusively for humans, isn't it?
Yeah, it does seem surprisingly positive, the language in this one, doesn't it? Calling her she.
That's why I was so kind of surprised by it, I think.
You were shell shocked yourself, weren't you,
I
Tom?
was, yes, I was shocked with and again, it talks about there as well that you know, I mean, obviously, again, you know, one element of cultural speciesism is to downplay the capabilities of our fellow animals, and so, but you know, they do have a rich kind of, you know, mental life, and they can be traumatized. You know, in fact, even which is a weird thing, because even in animal welfare legislation, if you see it about, as it were, what you're not allowed to do, you're kind of not allowed to traumatize them or terrorize them. Well, that implies that they know that they can be traumatized and terrorized. You know, and yet everybody thinks, oh well, there's nothing much going on there, and yet it's written in animal welfare legislation. Right, moving on then.
We see our fellow animals being traumatized by fireworks, for example. Yes, we've all experienced that. Scared, terrified birds, terrified cats and dogs. So imagine if this happens, if this can happen with fireworks, what happens with actual ammunition? Of course, they are traumatized.
Yeah, that's right. Although I don't know about you, Wendy, but when I was a kid, nobody thought about the effect of fireworks on our fellow animals at all. It's a relatively recent thing, isn't it?
It seems to be, yeah, definitely not so much when I was a kid, not so much, but it definitely is now. But even despite the awareness, it seems people are still resistant to modifying what we do, isn't it? It's like, oh, you're such a party pooper, and it's my right to have these these celebrations, and so little consideration given to fellow animals. And
what's the main use of fireworks in Canada, Carolyn?
Well, yeah, there are fireworks, like especially New Year's Eve and Canada Day. And so, like, I guess there are different types of fireworks, like the ones that people use in neighborhoods, and then there's also the ones that they use to have big fireworks shows. But yeah, I know about how they cause a lot of harm to our fellow animals. I guess we shouldn't be surprised that people are using them anyway because of cultural speciesism, but it still almost seems shocking to think that they would, people just wouldn't care.
Yes. Well, yeah.
One thing as well that people
I don't know
often
if you already covered that.
Is there a delay there, Nella? I don't know if there's a delay. Oh, she's frozen for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think she's.
I think you're back now, Nella.
No. I don't know if she can hear us.
No, really.
Well, while Nella's coming back, I was just thinking of how people often don't consider as well that many of our fellow animals who are around us, especially dog and cat people,
I
think there's a big delay. Is there something going on?
They're going to have to do this again. They're saying that you have to say Nella's name 3 times.
3 times. No, I was just saying about how we don't really consider how, for example, with dogs, their sense of hearing is so much greater than ours as humans, for example. So whatever affects us through our hearing and like traumatic, sort of, loud bangs and noises and sounds is probably going to be like 10-fold, 100-fold for someone like a dog who has really, powerful hearing. And I don't think often we even take that into consideration. Yeah.
Even the smell as well. It's caustic, isn't it? Fireworks and stuff. So, right. Well, we've got 1/4 left, so I guess we ought to move on. What's next, Wendy?
We've got badgers, we've got horses from mine, but we've also got other stuff from Carolyn. I don't mind. What do you fancy? Badgers, crackers, horses. We've got quite a few.
Shall we go for the crackers? Because that's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's quite weird, actually.
If I can, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, hang on a minute. Yeah, that's because I didn't see that until today. So, I've forgotten how to do it. Oh, here we go.
Oh, we've got a comment from Fireweed. We've just had a win in our Canadian community after years of agitating against fireworks that our fire department, is no longer going to sponsor them. Petitions help. Interesting update there. Thank you, Fireweed.
Yeah, I don't know if any, I don't really know if any thing like the fire department is sponsoring fireworks around here in Ottawa, but yeah. I guess that could be one way of approaching it, seeing who's sponsoring it.
It should be the fire putting out department, shouldn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, kind of the water department. doesn't seem to work like that. Right, let's see if we can get this back up now. No, that's the wrong one. Hang on. Must be this screen here. I've gone high tech and it's doing my head in, to be honest.
Yeah, Brian's here, Deb. Guess what? He just bit me, the little bugger. He was on my chair. I was just kind of just had my arm near him, and he decided to give me take a right chunk out of my finger, just for no reason. Must be hungry.
All right. So yeah, I found this article. Yeah, I found this article yesterday. I think it's from maybe 2018 or 2019. And it's interesting because it contains quotes from Corey Lee Wren, Matthew Cole, and David Nybert, all vegan sociologists. And it's, it can be hard to find news articles that include the insights from vegan academics. So I thought this was quite exciting in that sense. But that being said, I guess the disappointing part of the article was that the writer, was not taking the issue seriously. So, some vegan sociologists were pointing out some of the problematic aspects of animal crackers, but yeah, the writer was sort of making fun of it.
Okay, so what is the issue? That it creates social disrespect, or?
Yeah, basically, it sort of teaches children that other animals are to use in a subtle way. It's not as overt as obviously exploiting actual other animals, but it's more of a subtle effect.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know from the chat and the panel. Do we buy that? Is that a problem, or not, or is it because? Even if you thought it was a problem, objecting to it is bound to bring ridicule, isn't it?
Interesting one. I wasn't really sure when I read this. I mean, I think, and I know especially
these are just crackers, aren't they? In the shape.
These are crackers in the shape. Yeah.
For example, here's a lion. Where they're a lion, right? But they're not even that realistic, are they?
Not realistic.
Oh, there's an effalump.
The quote from David Nybert said, "Children should be taught to respect other animals. Eating their forms as crackers is just another step in the socialization process that accustoms children to exploitation."
Okay, is that?
It was in the article.
Highlight that. No bit. Where are you? David's gone missing. Oh, there. Right.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, that vegan sociologists' work is not usually featured in the mass media. Yeah, and so it's like the media chose, or, this journalist chose to focus on the animal crackers rather than focusing on the broader issue of speciesism.
And actually, Corey Lee Wren's quoted as saying, "By being able to collect caged animals, pick them up, handle them, and eventually eat them, notions of human supremacy are underscored."
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the quotes are really good. And I think it's good that these insights were shared in this article. It's just, I think it would have been better if the writer of the article had taken the issue seriously.
Yeah, to actually explore it from a different angle, really, or as from a serious perspective. Actually, Deb's made a point. I guess maybe from 651, Doc. I guess maybe if you had crackers stroke cookies shaped like baby humans, that would be problematic. Yes, but actually, I don't know about in where you folks are, but we have jelly babies. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. We have jelly babies, which are kind of human shaped jellies.
And people make a thing about do you bite the head off first or not, and this kind of stuff, right? But I mean, whether it has any societal impact, I'm not quite sure. But I mean, obviously, I understand the point, because the sociologists are dealing with the depth of cultural speciesism, and I think in some senses that's where it highlights the fact that cultural speciesism is kind of endemic everywhere. You can't get away from it and everything. So a jelly baby is not being consumed in a place where lots of babies were actually being exploited, in the same way as it is with our fellow animals. So in that sense, it's the same and different. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's not like for like, is it? Because we're not other animals haven't got the status that in terms of acknowledged rights that humans have. So it's never comparable, really, in our current paradigms of speciesism, is it? So they actually, funnily enough, Jennifer, they do mention gingerbread men in the article. I don't know if you're reading that but I think the journalist actually brings up gingerbread men in terms of like almost to ridicule the argument, I think.
Well,
if I remember that correctly.
Sorry, Carolyn.
Oh yeah. There was even a response by Corey Lee Wren to that question about the gingerbread people, and how it was sort of like what Roger was saying about how humans as a group are not oppressed on the basis of being humans. Like, so in other words, if you had sort of gingerbread people that were made to resemble some oppressed human group, that would be more problematic.
Yeah, because actually Corey says human-shaped cookies and crackers are usually generic forms. If they were designed to specifically resemble Jewish persons or African Americans and were marketed to white children, we can perhaps recognize the ideological problem with animal crackers being marketed to human children in an anthropocentric society that engages in wide-scale systematic violence against animals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what that evokes, don't you, Wendy? It evokes, what is it, Robinson's jam?
Oh God, I know. I thought of that actually when I was reading this, and yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if people know what we're talking about, but I mean, I don't even know if it's cool to even use that word now.
I know. I wouldn't want to say it at all. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know. Well, they shortened it, didn't they? They took away the second part of the name, and then they just call them the first part. Yeah, but I'm just really, it's just very icky, isn't it?
Miss Molly. See, this reminds me of I wrote a blog entry, and I made it clear that the blog entry would only make sense to fellow vegans, and it was because there was some people taken hostage somewhere in the world, and they complained about being cooped up like animals, they said. And then on the flight back, they were being interviewed by the journalists, welcome back to civilization, all that kind of stuff. And they were saying, I can't wait to have some eggs Benedict. And I said, that from a vegan point of view, nobody else would have seen that. But from a vegan point of view, you're complaining about being caged like the animals. And then the first thing you're going to do when you get back is consume products which are almost certain to have been from, caged chickens and stuff. And I was saying only a vegan would get the point, but that was used in an article against me to say how weird my position was. And I think this is what was in the mind of the journalist here. as well make vegans look a bit weird.
Yeah.
They even object to animal-shaped crackers.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's seen as totally ridiculous. And I imagine most people, that just, that are not in line with our philosophy would definitely see it like, what are you going on about? You know, all the things in the world that are going on, and you're worried about animal-shaped crackers. Yeah, I can totally see how that would bring ridicule.
Yeah, makes a point about zoos, of course. I don't really know about the other shapes, because I remember as a kid those things. I remember that they used to have a kind of shiny, sweet texture on one side. I mean, these ones in this article don't, but I remember that. But
and chocolate ones. Do you remember the chocolate ones? Does anyone have those? Is that the ones you're talking about, Jennifer? The animal cookies. I think I remember some of those when I was a kid, like animal-ish shaped chocolate biscuits.
Oh yeah, there's a primate, a lion, and an elephant. They're the most obvious. So is it a fuss about nothing, or is there a real serious point that speciesists don't see?
Well, I think it's a valid point that these vegan sociologists are making. I just think that it was probably, I think that the journalist is probably sort of using this as a distraction away from the larger issues in some ways.
Yeah, you can just imagine the way the journalist would sell it to the editor. You won't believe what I've got these vegans to say. You know, you can hear that being said, can't you? In an editing room, you know, or something. And any last observations, Carolyn?
Yeah, I think I'm good to move on.
Okay.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that I think we should be talking about within the movement, perhaps, especially if we're talking about, you know, academic ideas. But it's not something that I would, you know, want to like do outreach to the non-vegan public about.
I was just thinking the same thing. Trying to get people to stop eating the animal-shaped cookies.
Yeah, was I right by? Let me just actually get it back again. Was I right by thinking that the beginning of it was something to do with PETA?
There was something mentioned about PETA, yeah. And the campaign to get Nabisco to stop having a picture of non-human animals in cages on the front of the animal crackers box, I think.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. See, this is typical PETA stuff, isn't it? Going for the outrageous and going for the stuff that's going to create, you know, media coverage, because, again, it's seen as a little bit weird and you know, not that important, and yet here's an animal rights group focusing on it. Animal rights group with bunny rabbit ears. Yeah. So I don't know. Well, now, oh blimey, it's 7 o'clock, folks. What are we going to do?
What we're going to do? Oh no, so many articles to cover, and we've got Carolyn's slideshow as well. But yeah, 7. I can't stay too long after 7.
Okay, we might have to have Carolyn back a third time, because those slides are going to take a while, aren't they? They're going to take 20-25 minutes easy, aren't they, to go through those?
Yeah, Deb's like, keep going.
Slave driver.
I suppose we could look at one more thing, if people have time for that.
Yeah. Would you? I know this sounds a bit weird, given the fact that we've messed you around a lot. But would you come back for a third time, Carolyn?
I would if you're okay with that.
Can you tolerate the Animal Rights Show one more time?
yeah, of course.
Right, okay. So let me, yep, using the wrong computer again. Here we go. Add to stage, remove.
Everyone's saying, don't stop. We want more. We want more.
Yeah. Start a petition. Present, share screen. So what have we got left? We've got...
Well, the horse one's really long, to be honest. That's like pages of article. It's a really interesting article, though, that horses on, but it is really long. The badger one's a little...
You've highlighted loads of bits, haven't you?
I know, because every time I went through, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So it is quite
a good 10 minutes. Should we go for the badger cull then?
Go for the badger, so-called cull.
Because that's only one left in terms of media thing. So
it's the BBC one, isn't it? Let me just...
it's the BBC.
BBC. I got the right one.
Right. Let me make it bigger. There we go. Can people see that now?
So this is about a so-called badger culling, which I think they're right from the start. The language is obviously very euphemistic and would only ever apply to fellow animals. Culling,
and look who wrote it. Rural Affairs. Yeah,
Malcolm. That's my.
Malcolm
that's
Pryor.
Yeah. So
before he was called Malcolm.
Already we're off to a shaky start with the culling, but that's what everyone talks about this. So obviously for a long time now, what's been happening in the UK is they've been basically murdering badgers with a view to trying to stop the spread of bovine TB, which is prevalent in so-called dairy cows and cattle. So they're trying to stop the spread of this by just murdering. I think it's up to about 230,000 badgers now within the last decade or so. I remember campaigning against this like even up to 12 years ago. This has been going on and on and on. And then with the recent change of government, the Labour government have said that they are now going to stop the culling within the next, hopefully 5 years, but within the next the Parliament, which would be potentially by 2029. But in the meantime, the culls that are already licensed are going to go ahead, or a lot of them are going to go ahead, which means thousands more badgers are going to be murdered. So yeah, that's the basis of the story. So this is just covering here. But what's interesting,
it's always the same, isn't it, Wendy? You get these announcements, and what makes it worse is that often you get the national groups kind of going victory and everything, and then it's going to be within 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years, and that, of course, there's a lot of wriggle room. Then, things have changed. The issues are different. The science is different, and all this kind of stuff. So by the time we get to this 5 years, they could just say, "Oh no, we can't do it anymore because everything's changed."
Yeah, no, absolutely, and who knows? Because they're always going back on. Policies and things that they put in their mandates or whatever. So you just can't trust that this will actually happen anyway. And even if it did, and they're saying they're trying to eradicate the disease in England by 2038. So we're talking another 14 years anyway to actually try to get rid of it. But and it's almost like they're pitting the organizations that want to save the badger, for example, those organizations who are campaigning against the killing of the badgers, against the farmers, because the farmers are saying, if you take away this strategy, our livelihoods are under threat here. And again, the language of livestock. So there's never really any talk about the cows, and actually a lot of cows are being forced to be killed because of the TB, but there's never any talk about really the cows or their individuality or anything about the cows being killed, apart from it's the devastation to the livelihood of the farmer because of their livestock. So you've got this kind of pitted war between kind of farmers wanting the killing to remain, because they're saying that it's been proven to be effective, whereas that a lot of the science and even government's own research shows that the killing is not that effective at all to stop this spread, and that more should be done to stop the spread within the groups of cows. But of course, none of it even bringing to the table the fact that they're killing badgers in order to save the cows who are being oppressed for human gain, so that humans can consume so-called dairy. There's never any talk of this, and there's never any talk of how even that could be a possibility, that we would actually stop oppressing the cows and stop this industry altogether. It's how do we save the industry, and if it's at the expense of the badgers, some people are almost thinking, so what? And even the people that abhor the killing of the badgers, and there are quite a lot, I've still got that attitude of, well, yes, but we need to find a way to do this as well as consuming our dairy. So it's a very murky topic, and the way they treat it as well.
What do you think's being said here with this highlighted one, Wendy? Daniel, Minister of Food Security and Rural Affairs, said the disease had devastated British farmers. Again, no mention of the cow individuals and wildlife for far too long. So when they say wildlife, is that badgers, or are others affected by TB as well as the cows?
I'm thinking that they're talking about the badgers, because obviously the badgers are just being killed in their thousands, and they're saying now they don't even know what the widespread impact of this has been, because they haven't counted the badgers and how this is affecting. But even then, they're only talking about the impact on numbers. There's never any thought to that's over 200,000 individual lives that have been taken. It's always about, how is this impacting, the numbers? Are they going to become extinct, or are the numbers going to recover? It's seen in such that very traditional conservationist kind of language. It just shows the insidiousness of speciesism right here in this entangled way of badgers and cows and livestock. And it's just it's quite appalling, really.
This seems to be playing with words here, because a disease has devastated so-called wildlife for far too. Well, isn't that what the kill is going to do, is devastate the badgers? I mean they're killing thousands of them, and so it's playing with words, isn't it? Kind of what it's better to kill them instead of, what's being said, it's a bit weird.
It's as if it's very sad if the badgers die of TB, but it's okay if we kill them in order to save the cows, in order to save the dairy industry. So it's very utilitarian, isn't it? It's pure speciesism, pure utilitarianism, pure human supremacy,
isn't it? Because a new strategy shifts the focus onto vaccinating badgers instead of killing them. Isn't that been the strategy that people have been putting forward for 25 years?
Absolutely. And all the research that's been done in all of that time shows heavily that this killing doesn't actually work, really. But yet the farmers seem to be standing their ground and saying, this is the only thing that works, so don't take it away from us. It's quite...
I got to confess, I don't know much about it. The badgers get TB and pass it on, but do the badgers die from the TB, or are they kind of carriers of it?
I think they're carriers mostly. I think that's what tends to be happening.
In a vegan world with no dairy industry, problem gone, isn't it? Apart from a few sanctuaries where bovine individuals are cared for, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if it does. Maybe it does affect the badgers, but I think mostly they talk about how they're carriers. But I guess in a vegan world we wouldn't look to we'd look to get rid of the disease, not the individuals that have the disease. Like, you imagine doing that with humans. Imagine if we'd killed everyone with COVID to stop the spread of COVID. But we didn't do that. In fact, we rushed through all the testing on fellow animals in order to get a vaccine for our human selves, in order to save ourselves. As always, fellow animals are always the ones who are paying the price for what we want.
Yeah, it's the farming of cows which is a problem. That's what I mean. In a vegan world, the problem kind of goes away, doesn't it? Or is massively reduced.
Yeah. And it's the killing of free living fellow animals as well, to save oppressed fellow animals, but not really saving the fellow animals for their own sake, saving them to be oppressed in order that they can be oppressed. So it's a very entangled clash of violations.
And in other cases, different diseases that affect the animals bred and raised for, in order to kill them for their flesh, they are actually killing those individuals if they get the disease, and in many cases they kill them in. I'm trying to choose my words carefully, and I cannot find the right ones. In very, I will say, inhumane ways. For example, here it was discovered by the media that sheep were killed by being buried alive because of some disease. Trying to stop the disease, they actually killed the individuals. So it seems that every time there is a disease affecting those animals, all kinds of species pay the price except the humans. And except it's like human life and then human property and then everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Which in my mind is the main problem. How come property is more important than life?
And sometimes, actually, Nella, you made a really good point there. And actually, sometimes property actually comes above even human life in this capitalist world that we have, doesn't it?
Well, it does in the court system.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Ronnie and I experienced that ourselves. When you had the sentence for Ronnie compared with the sentence for serious sexual assault, which is lower. Right? But I mean, the state's job is to protect, capital interests. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So,
so just as a general comment, then, to kind of finish this topic, do we feel that? And it's a shame we didn't get time for the horses one, because that was a real blend of different language, some really positive, some really different perspectives on different types of oppression within the horses world. But I just wonder, generally, do we, the panel and people in the chat, feel that the media can ever actually be truly reflective of, say, our kind of perspective, or be non-speciesist because we live in a speciesist world? Is the media always going to reflect and perpetuate that speciesist paradigm rather than actually challenge it? Is it possible to challenge it? And even the Lioness article, will people even recognize that some of that language challenges speciesism, or would they just kind of read that and not even bat an eyelid about it? Does that make sense?
I think it is easier to challenge it from within. I mean, here we had the case of a few vegan journalists who did that. They challenged their other journalists about the language they are using. And I had the pleasure to actually open and read a newspaper and read articles by some vegan journalist named Petros Katsakos, who used the correct language and use the vegan perspective to explain to a non-vegan audience what is actually happening with other animals. So I think that it's easier done from within the media industry.
Yeah.
Well, you don't see a parallel with the law. It's like saying, will we ever get any decent law while we've still got cultural speciesism? And so any decent law is going to be few and far between, and any decent press is going to be few and far between. I suppose that's the reality of it.
Yeah. And if there was more of a challenge in the press, do you think this could influence the wider public? Could it be a way of changing people's
Where's the
attitudes?
challenge coming from? From the press itself?
Yeah, well, say for example, there were more vegan people writing articles in the press and actually having those articles, you know, not overly edited and things like that. Could that be a way, you know, to
well, that
push the
ties into
envelope?
something that we were going to talk about, because Carolyn has recently had an article in a paper, but it was edited. Now, if Carolyn had been a journalist, they you know, there would be the same process, that even though the journalist might get the language completely right, then you're going to get a sub-editor putting a red line through it all because it doesn't marry the understanding of the you know, the readership. So even with you know, a spot on journalist doesn't guarantee it's going to be spot on coverage, because it's got to go through a process, and the process is embedded with cultural speciesism. Because that's what happened with yours, Carolyn. It was edited, right?
A bit.
Yeah. And can you, was it the more technical language that we're using, like our fellow animals or something like that was edited, or can you remember?
Wasn't that much. They changed the word speciesist. They put a hyphen in the middle of the word speciesist. And I had said I was very disappointed to hear about how the beavers were being killed. They removed the word berry, which I thought sort of weakened it a bit. And then they also removed the link that I provided to Go Vegan World's website. I said, you know, to learn more about animal rights, go to Go Vegan World's website. And so they removed that. But in that article, in that letter to the editor, they didn't actually remove that much.
Mm.
Right. Well, that's good then, I suppose, because I know, you know, Ronnie Lee's a big advocate of still writing to your local paper and everything, and local papers are a lot easier to deal with. So, was it national, regional, local, Carolyn?
Yeah, it was the Ottawa Citizen, so an Ottawa local paper.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. See, the thing is, if it had been a national one or even a regional one, they would have probably interfered with it more. You know, I mean, like they used to misquote me all the time, you know, when I was a press officer, and the same goes with Ronnie. Even though we went to, well, I did anyway, went to extraordinary lengths to get relationships with some journalists. The problem is, of course, that they move around a lot, and so, you know, it's not a stable relationship. But even if you get one, it doesn't guarantee anything. You know, I mean, the mass media is a bit of a monster, really, in that sense.
Fireweeds posted an interesting comment on CBC Radio Canada. The media constantly features animal stories as comic relief. This toxic use of humor to deflect and objectify animals has to be called out over and over again. Yeah, great point, Fireweed. I love Fireweed's name. I love the fact that you're called Fireweed, or you're calling yourself Fireweed. That's a great name, cracking name. But yeah, no, it's true. We use a lot in humor.
Can I do a bit of advertising, Wendy?
Thanks. Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, on Thursday, I'm going to be on a panel with Tim Barford, who's hosting a live stream on Thursday with myself and Ayrton from Animal Justice Project, talking about an upcoming panel. Thank you, Brian, for your contribution. An upcoming panel at the Vegan Party Conference, which is going to be in London on the 28th and 29th of September. So it's a weekend event, and I'm going to be on 2 panels at that event. And so we're doing a live stream this Thursday at, I believe, 6 p.m. UK Irish time, to just kind of talk about maybe some of the topics that might come up on the panels, and just to talk about animal rights. One of the panels is Beyond the Welfare Paradigm, and the other panel that I'm on is Language Matters. So both, I'm sure, interesting topics for most people here.
So is it 7 p.m. British time, is it? Or
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
So, yeah, 6 p.m. So the same time as this.
Yes.
Thursday.
On Thursday, yeah, and it's yeah. I'm not sure. I think
you're back. And look at this from Fireweird. I mean, this is interesting.
So I'm getting completely. Oh.
Yeah,
Brian's claws is just like, why? Oh. You know, when they get their claws, and you're like, oh, less of the claw. Sorry. Such a little rascal.
So Fireweird.
What do they get the claws in? Yeah, Fireweird.
Yeah, so that's
love it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Right. So okay. So with Carolyn's promise to come back, it looks like we can probably wrap up. We're 20 minutes over, which is kind of not that bad for us, really. We've done worse than that. So, yeah,
we definitely have.
We certainly have. Right. So, any last thoughts, then, panel?
Just to say thank you to Carolyn for part 2 and looking forward to part 3.
And thank you everyone for joining us.
I think we co-opted Carolyn onto the show without her knowing.
Yeah, so, definitely.
I think, I mean, to feed back to what you were saying, Wendy, do we get the impression that the press are not as bad? I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, we didn't find lots of, and again, we could have done if you looked for it, you know, all the kind of it language and everything. You presumably could have found that, but whether it's actually, there is starting to be a bit of an impact and it's diminishing, I think it's hard to say. You'd have to do a longitudinal content analysis or something to be able to judge that, really. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know whether media coverage is getting better. I don't think it's any better for the campaigning groups. It still seems to be, you know, pretty kind of, you know, they're looking for sensation and they're looking for conditions. They're not looking for arguments and theories and stuff as usual. Not that they're being given any either. So that's a problem too. So.
Yeah, we're just Gawain. Hello, Gawain. I haven't seen Gawain for ages on here, but Gawain, we're literally just going.
Yeah.
What time do you flipping call this, Gawain? And
yeah,
nice to see you as well.
Just can't rely on some people, can you, Wendy?
Join us next time. Gawain.
Right, Carolyn, Nella, any last thoughts before we say goodbye? I'll take that devastating silence.
For me.
No.
No. I cannot hear you very well because the sound is breaking. So I'll just say thank you to everyone. That's all for me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on.
Nella, try not to beat your computer up too bad when you get off the air. Right, people, we shall see you again. Don't know when. There's no point in promising, is there really? We might as well forget doing that. So we shall see you again sometime in the future if there's life on the planet. Bye
we will try.